Hi folks, the category of the day is Best Sound Editing, and what you just heard was a brief snippet of Richard King's sound design for Christopher Nolan's Inception, which is the first nominee. King is a terrific sound editor who already has 2 Oscars to his name, the most recent of which came just a couple of years ago for Nolan's The Dark Knight. What I love about his work on Inception is how he modifies all the usual gunshots and explosions and other action movie sound effects to give them a slightly surreal quality. The exploding pavement and shattering glass we heard in the clip, for instance, do not sound quite like we would expect them to in real life. For that scene in particular, he actually mixed in whale moans in order to achieve a deep, threatening sound. It's wonderfully creative work throughout, and noticeable enough for the Academy to give it their votes. Add to that the fact that the film is also a Best Picture nominee, and I think we can expect to see Richard King accepting his 3rd Oscar. The next nominee is Toy Story 3, sound designed by Tom Myers and Michael Silvers. Pixar has always done really well in this category. 7 of their 11 feature films have been nominated here, and Michael Silvers has been attached to 6 of those 7 nominations. He even managed to win for The Incredibles a few years back. Of course, what he and Tom Myers come up with on Toy Story 3 is detailed, quality sound work, but, and not to diminish it in any way, I sometimes wonder why Pixar is the only animation studio that ever gets recognized here. I would have loved to see Randy Tom nominated for his inventive work on How to Train Your Dragon this year, but clearly the reputation of the Pixar name and general affection towards Toy Story 3 was all it really needed to score with the sound branch. That said, the Academy at large probably didn't notice the sound effects enough to vote for it in this category. The next nominee, Tron Legacy, sound designed by Gwen Whittle and Addison Teague.
Attention program. You will receive an identity disc. Everything you do or learn will be imprinted on this disc. If you lose your disc or fail to follow commands, you will be subject to immediate de-resolution.
Marion complete?
Now, I may have serious misgivings about the film itself, but in this field, Tron Legacy is actually my favorite nominee. So much of what makes the world of the grid what it is how it sounds. The voice tracks, like those we heard in the clip, were processed to sound computerized and hollow. Distinct and dangerous sounds had to be created for all manner of ritual contraptions, such as light cycles and discs, but they still bore resemblance to the sounds of the original Tron. I'll be rooting for this to win, even though I know well that it probably won't. Its absence from every other category, including visual effects, indicates that the Academy just didn't like the movie, and they'll be hard-pressed to vote for something they didn't like. Next up is True Grit, sound designed by Skip Levesey and Craig Berkey.
That Chinaman is running them cheap shells on me again.
Like his work on the Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men, Skip Levesey's sound effects on this film are top-notch. Gunshots and galloping hooves and clinking spurs are all expertly handled, but ultimately I found myself more impressed with the overall sound mix on this film than with the individual sound effects. There's a slim chance it could win, though. 10 nominations for True Grit obviously shows a strong level of support, but it would still be unusual for it to triumph over the louder, more ubiquitous sound effects of Inception. The final nominee is Mark P. Stockinger for his sound editing of a runaway freight train in Unstoppable. The sound work on this film really is quite good. The squealing of the wheels on the tracks, the ominous rattle of the freight cars, and the startling impact of every high-speed collision are all integral to heightening the tension and pumping up the adrenaline. And Stockinger does do a terrific job of supervising everything. This is actually the sort of no-nonsense action movie that can win this category from time to time. However, not a lot of people have actually seen it. It did modest business at the box office and hasn't really gained much attention otherwise. I say this category is going to Inception. Be sure to check back on Monday when I'll be running down the contenders for Best Supporting Actress.